a lot of the 401k plans, you can take a loan on your 401k, which is 50% or up to $50,000 of your vested balance. And so that's a whole nother thing that we could get into. But if you need to take a loan from that plan and then you're paying back that loan, the interest you're paying on that loan, you're paying to yourself.
Have you ever wondered if you're truly making the most out of your paycheck, not just today, but for your future? From acronyms like 401k and HSA to that fine print in your benefits package, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or even unsure about what kind of savings opportunities are actually available to you at work. Today, we're breaking down those questions from the major points all the way to that fine print so you can confidently take control of your financial benefits at work. And here to join us today are two expert guests from right here at SHRM, Brytnee Fallan from Financial Strategy and Accounting Operations, and Sheri Martel from Total Rewards. Together, we'll share insider tips, clarify the rules, and answer those tough employee contribution questions you may be too shy to email your HR team about. All right, Brytnee and Sheri, welcome to All Things Work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's kick things off by breaking down a few of the major acronyms to understand them a bit better. So, Brytnee, in the retirement savings category, we often hear the two big ones, 401k and IRA. Could you explain the difference between the two?
I'm really excited to talk about 401k and benefits, but I just like to add that we're not financial advisors, but we're happy to give you all the information that we can. So a 401k is an employer-sponsored plan. So it's a savings plan that employers can set up for their employees. And an IRA is an individual retirement account, which you can go to any financial institution or bank that has those options and set them up on an individual basis. But an employer-sponsored plan is where you see your 401ks, your 403bs, and things like that.
A lot of acronyms to keep up on,
Yes.
So we'll keep it simple for now. So, Sheri, in the total rewards category, can you explain the difference between the HSA and the FSA? I had a bit of a struggle the last couple years remembering.
Certainly. So with the HSA, the S is for savings. So that's the key word there. So for the HSA, it's a health savings account to put money aside pre-taxed to save for future medical, dental, vision expenses. With the flexible spending account, the S is for spending. So that's the key word to remember there. The money that you set aside for those medical, dental, vision expenses needs to be spent within that current plan year. It's use or lose. So the difference between the savings that will last forever, you can keep adding into versus the spending account that you do need to use each year.
I'm taking notes. I'm going to keep this recording for when I re-enroll next year. So a common question employees might have, which is something I had for you, Sheri, when you and I were, I called for our audience who may not know, I'm the one who actually called Sheri and I said, I'm having so much trouble. Can you help me out? She got on a call with me. She screen shared, walked me through it. Sheri, you were wonderful. The whole team here is amazing. And so I would love to dive into this common question about what is the best choice? Which one's better for me when it comes to choosing between the different health savings plans? How would you suggest HR respond to those types of questions?
Well, thank you, Anne. And I'm glad I was able to help you. It's a question that does come up often where I can't give exact advice as to what plan is the right for an individual. I do encourage each individual to make sure they fully understand each plan and what it entails. So what are the out-of-pocket maximums? What are the deductibles? What are the copays? And then take that information back and really look at their personal financial situation and make the decision on what's going to work best with them. Are they comfortable paying that out-of-pocket maximum under one plan or not? Would they prefer to have a more regular copay situation when they go to doctor and know they're going to be paying $25, $50, $75 versus getting a larger bill? That's really up to them. But I think the biggest point is to make sure that employees fully understand the benefit and what all the pricing entails so they can make the best financial decision for themselves.
Exactly. You're not going to tell them you have to do this or you should do that. You're just going to present the opportunities and really clarify the details. down to it so that they at least are fully educated and know, based on what you told them, what they would probably prefer based on their financial needs for the year. So I love that. Yeah, sure. You didn't give me financial advice, but you did walk me through a lot of information. Going back to employer matching, it's frequently mentioned in discussions about employee benefits. It's one of the first things you kind of hear when you're even in orientation. So, Brytnee, could you share a deeper explanation of what employer matching entails?
Yeah. So employer matching is unique because there's two major ways that I think about it. So from the standpoint of your 401k, an employer match could be a dollar for dollar match, or it could be a partial match. Where your dollar for dollar is if you put in 4%, they've matched it up to the 4% dollar for dollar. Where some plans are a partial match where it's like 50% up to 6, which if you put in 6, you'll get 3%. The other piece of that is there's different types of 401k plans where like you have your safe harbor plans where you don't even have to put anything in it to have that match come through. And those plans, those safe harbor plans are for employers so that they can pass those non-discrimination testings, which is a whole compliance piece in ERISA regulations on 401k plans. But a lot of those safe harbor plans, it's an auto match even if you don't contribute. So I would take a look at your plan, see what your employer has put into those provisions to see what your plan has.
So, Sheri, we're going to turn back to you. How can employees fully leverage employer matching benefits, and what are really the important considerations they should keep in mind to avoid missing out on those contributions and possibly even leaving that money on the table? We don't want that for people.
Definitely don't want that. I definitely want to, encourage staff to know what their employer match is. How much do they match? So in Brittany's example, if they match 50% of the first, 6%, if you put in 6% minimum, they're going to match 3%. If you put in less than that, you're leaving money on the table because you're not getting that full match that your employer offers. So it's really important that you take a look at that. And if you're able to, put in at least that minimum amount that you need to get the full employer match, whatever that be for your company, that will help you from leaving money on the table that could be given to you for free.
Exactly. I
Back to
know.
you.
I think I'm in my 30s, and I still, I call my parents. I'll talk to them, and I'll just make sure each time, like, am I doing this right? Is this what it really means? I can't remember. And I think a lot of people have to realize we're all humans. We're all trying to figure it out. And honestly, we have terrible memories. I need to start recording my conversations on what I did for the last enrollment to see what it means for this year. So there's just so much information. It's just why we're here talking about it. So because we're humans, and financial decisions, they just can feel very daunting, overwhelming, intimidating. It kind of triggers that emotion in us, like how do we figure this out? And it's almost paralyzing for some people. So what would you say, and this is a question for both of you, so we can start with Brytnee. What would you say are HR's best practices for supporting those employees who may feel that kind of overwhelming feeling or paralysis there?
I think one of the biggest things is just normalizing the conversation. I think a lot of the times we think everyone, manages, they have their benefit guide and they can understand it, but a lot of times they don't. And like I had a number of conversations with our coworkers and I'll be like, oh, are you taking advantage of this? And they're like, what are you talking about? And so I think just normalizing those conversations about financial benefits, even as, maybe uncomfortable as they can be, is probably one of the best things you can do. I think education, financial education, I sit up here in accounting and finance, and I still have those conversations with my coworkers. So, like, we all just need a little help, and sometimes we don't understand.
I think that's great. I agree. I think normalizing those conversations and having that, judgment-free zone, letting people know that it's okay to come to HR and ask those questions. Sometimes because we go over maybe, HR, we go over all the benefits quickly during onboarding. And that can be overwhelming. You're learning a lot during onboarding. So letting, staff know, reminding them, come to me anytime. I'll answer that question. Let's talk about it, not just now, but 3 months down the road. And reminding staff of those benefits throughout the year, because again, onboarding can be so overwhelming with so many new options, and you're trying to set up these plans and your finances and things like that. And you have a limited number of days you can do that upon enroll, new hire and things like that. So having these conversations throughout the year, reminding staff that they can still change some of these things and update some of these things throughout the year, when they might have more time or feel more ready to sit down and look at it and ask more questions and make those changes.
Yeah, and here at SHRM, we even have what we call our benefits fair, where people go from table to table, just talking about the different types of benefits, financial health. And there are people there along with the HR staff just helping us understand and make us feel comfortable, because I'm always that type of person. I'll come to you and I'll be like, oh, this is probably a stupid question. And that you guys are like, no, there's no such thing as stupid questions. It's just a question, and that's okay. It helps give you direction. So for anybody who's like me, just remember that there's no stupid questions. Hey everyone, we'll jump back into the conversation in just a moment. But first, SHRM members listening today have access to Exclusive Resource, a toolkit for designing and administering defined contribution retirement plans. Now, this comprehensive resource gives HR professionals step-by-step guidance to create and manage effective retirement plans for your organization. You'll find best practices for plan design, compliance essentials, and communication strategies to help employees make the most of their financial benefits. If you're watching on YouTube, just click the link above for instant access or follow the link in this episode's description. This toolkit is just one of the many advantages of being a SHRM member, so be sure to make the most of this valuable resource. Now back to the episode. All right, so let's talk about a few different strategies for getting the most out of those financial benefits. Both significant life events and year-end opportunities can have a real direct impact on your employee contributions and overall benefit choices. To start, let's focus on how major life events can influence your benefits. And we know this is a big deal for everybody. So, Sheri, how do major life events such as marriage, having a child, or even a promotion impact financial benefits and eligibility?
Definitely. So when you have a major life event like having a child or getting married, that's really the only time throughout the year that you can change your benefits enrollments. So that is the time that you can make those changes. You can add your spouse, you can add your child. And when you do that, if you're switching from employee only coverage to employee and spouse or employee and child or family coverage, you then have the opportunity to up your limits, your contribution limits for your FSA, or you can enroll in a dependent care account if you now have a child. You can up your HSA on maximum contribution. So there's a great way when you have those events in your life to increase your contributions, not only just add your family members to your plan, but also increase your contributions to those plans. And if you get a promotion, that's a great time to take a look and see, am I able to put more money into my 401k now? Can I increase that percentage that I contribute so that I'm able to make more money throughout the year with my retirement plan?
And so, Brytnee, can a promotion or salary increase be actually leveraged to optimize retirement or those savings contributions?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you don't really think about is the tax benefit. And I don't like to dig too deep into it, but when you get a promotion or a salary increase, a lot of times that tax implication goes up. And so really understanding your total compensation, what you're getting paid on that net end, and see if there's a way to put your money into different tax vehicles, as I like to call them, that protect your money and protect that tax liability. So using, those promotions or salary increases and maybe using a or using a percentage of your compensation rather than a flat amount to then kind of, that sliding scale as you go up in salary, your contributions also go up.
I really hope our audience has like a pen and paper right now. But the good thing is you can go back and listen to these episodes. So in between those major life events, there are also some things employees can do before the year's over. So, Sheri, let's dive into this. What are those key financial benefits employees really should review or update as the year comes to a close? This is also a question for me. I'm curious.
Well, one of the first things you want to do, if you do have that flexible spending account, you want to check the balance of it because it is use or lose. So you don't want to leave that money on the table and have it just be forfeited. And with the FSA, there are so many products included in the FSA that most people don't even realize are FSA approved. So I recommend seeing how much you have left in that account. And most FSAs have an FSA store online, or even Target or CVS or places like that will tell you what is FSA eligible. And you can buy items that you're going to use that aren't going to go to waste outside of what you might have been using your FSA for throughout the year, just prescriptions or general medicines, things like that. So definitely take a look at that. Definitely take a look at your dependent care account. Make sure if you have one that you've submitted the claims, you've submitted the reimbursements, so you don't lose that money, because once the year's gone, you can't go back and claim that again. So that's really important. And again, with your health savings account, just take a look. Are you able to put a little more money into that before the end of the year? Do you want to contribute a little more? Are you able to? Because again, that money doesn't expire. It rolls over to the next year. So that's a great opportunity as well. So those are some things you want to look at between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, those are the great money saving tips right there. So going back to you, Brytnee, are there considerations employees should keep in mind for making financial benefit changes before those year-end deadlines?
So I like to point out, that a lot of plans are set. So like for instance, here at SHRM, we have, automatic enrollment on our 401k plans. We have that annual escalation. So every year that you're enrolled in our plan, if you're not contributing already, believe it's 10%, that like it goes up by 1% every year. So like one, see where you're at on your escalation. Two, know your limits. So like, what are the 401k limits for this year? It's $23,500 if you're under the age of 50, and then it's that additional $7,000. So like just understanding your 401k contribution limits, understanding the limits that are changing for the next year, like the IRS just released them for 2026. So understanding those things, understanding how your plans work is a big thing. Some people will be like, oh, I selected 10%. Now it's like 11%. Well, we have an annual escalation if you're not paying attention. So like we just like to remind people that some plans have different provisions and you should be mindful.
Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. So there are some questions employees might have, but may not feel comfortable going to HR about it. I know I'm not the shy one anymore, but I used to be the very shy one. So we asked our audience to submit their questions in our weekly All Things Work newsletter, and we actually have some really great ones today. We got quite a few, and a lot of them are pretty useful. There's some questions I even had that I'm so glad these people are asking. So for our audience tuning into this episode, be sure you're signed up for the All Things Work newsletter and be on the lookout for that question of the week. Your submission could be featured in an upcoming episode. Okay, so Mishan from Arkansas, they ask, is there ever a good time to withdraw from my 401k early? And are there any negative consequences I should consider? This was something I always thought about.
So this is a complicated one. It's all dependent on financial situations. And I would say, depending on what's going on in your life, you'll have to make those determinations. But there are things you can do and use your 401k for to help cover whether you're in a financial hardship, you have some medical expenses, or if you're buying a house and things like that, where you want to, or I have this savings vehicle. Can I use it? Can it be leveraged in certain other instances? And from a distribution standpoint, it would be hard for me to recommend that, but if that's what needs to happen, there is a penalty for withdrawals, but there's other options you can take. For a lot of the 401k plans, you can take a loan on your 401k, which is 50% or up to $50,000 of your vested balance. And so that's a whole nother thing that we could get into. But if you need to take a loan from that plan and then you're paying back that loan, the interest you're paying on that loan, you're paying to yourself. So it's things like that where like you're not taking a distribution because you're not like keeping that money, but you're paying it back in a loan situation. But you're not paying some bank interest, you're paying yourself. So there are options, and you just have to understand where you're at in your situation.
Well, Mishan, yes, a question that we could have a whole other episode about, but we won't dive in too deep. Thank you for getting to the answer with that without going too far in. All right. So Tony from Georgia asked, are there exceptions for enrolling in financial benefits outside of the standard period? That's a good question.
So I guess it would depend. So like 401k plan, you can change your contribution at any time. The only thing that may change is the date that it goes into effect. So like if you did it this day, there something in your plan probably says at the earliest it can be put into process or at the next first of the month or whatever. But a lot of other benefits, whether it's financial advising or if it's HSA, you can also change your contributions, which isn't really an option on your FSA because you set that at the beginning of the year. And so it's a use it or lose it. It's front loaded. There's no way to change that. But in HSA, you can change your election and contributions throughout the year. So just understanding what benefit you have and what those provisions are.
Right. Sheri, anything to add? Just curious.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Brytnee. The HSA is one you can change throughout the year, but I do sometimes get asked about the FSA and, can I put more in now or I put in too much? I don't want to do that much. And unfortunately with the FSA, it is front loaded, so you cannot make that change throughout the year. So I always make sure that I remind staff to plan wisely with the FSA, how much they want to contribute to that each year.
All right, so we have a couple more questions, both 401k based. I'll start with Elaine from New Jersey. She asked, what happens if I can't afford to contribute to my 401k right now?
If they were to ask me that, I would say, take that time to get your feet planted on a good foundation. If you have to take that time off, do so and make a plan in the future. Plan ahead, see, all right, I can target putting back into my 401k or savings for retirement at a future time. But making those plans and setting those goals, talking to a financial advisor. A lot of 401k plans have financial advisors that you can talk to help guide those conversations. And even if you're not contributing, they can be like, all right, so once you get here, you can start putting maybe 1% in or something like that. But have those conversations.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. It can't hurt to have the conversation. And just a disclaimer again, we said at the beginning of the episode, this is not a financial advice. This is simply just an overview from the HR perspective. So final question, we have Mike from Utah. He asked, how do I know if my 401k investments are performing well or if I should make any changes?
So I think you have to think about it in two schools of thought. A lot of times 401k plans have those target retirement date funds. And so a lot of us, if we're just automatically enrolling in plans, we're being put into those target date funds, which the only thing I can say is that your plan has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that the investments that are being used for our 401k plans are, providing the benefits they need to our employees. So they're being monitored. Your plan sponsors are monitoring them. If you have like a retirement committee in-house, they have a fiduciary responsibility to help guide those retirement plan decisions from an investment standpoint. Now, if you're investing on your own, I would just say make sure you're looking at those benchmarks, your S&P 500s and your Dow Jones, see what those benchmarks are doing and kind of make those educated guesses, but talk to a financial advisor if you're talking about that.
Well, thank you so much, Sheri and Brytnee, for sharing your thoughts today, walking us through some, real situations and answering a lot of our questions from our audience. That was super helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It was great having you. All right, that's all for this week. We'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed our conversation today, be sure to subscribe wherever you enjoy your podcast so you never miss a new episode. Also, did you know All Things Work is more than a podcast? That's right, we're also a weekly newsletter that includes in-depth articles and the latest research from SHRM to keep you in the know. Just head to shrm.org/allthingswork to sign up. Plus, follow SHRM on social media to view the latest clips and join the conversation on game-changing topics that are redefining the world of work.
SHRM.